Okay, students, so what we're going to do today is we're going to open the lighthouse.tiff file, and we're going to colorize, we're going to select this background sky, the blue part, by color, and we're going to replace it with a nice fluffy cloud sky. Okay? So the first thing that we're going to do, however, before we do anything, is we're going to save a copy of this. Okay, so I'm just going to call this lighthouse2, okay, .tiff, and so we see everything's just fine. We'll say okay to that. All right, we don't want compression, and we want that to be the kind of graphic we want, a TIFF. Okay, so now we have a graphic that we can work with. Okay, we're going to go to the marquee tool, okay, which is this tool here. Okay, and we're going to make a rectangular selection. Now when I do that, I'm going to choose fixed size, okay, because I want to make sure that my selection is going to be 7 inches by 5 inches. Now I'm going to set this up the way it was when I first opened it. It was, I think, 64 pixels, so 64 px is what it said, and this said 64 pixels, okay? But that was wrong, okay, so I had to change it, and oftentimes you can select pixels or inches, but in this case they're going to make you type it in. So we want it 7 inches wide, and we want it 5 inches tall. Okay, so that's going to be our selection rectangle. Okay, and I'm just going to go ahead and click one time, and as you can see, we have our selection rectangle ready to go. I can go over here to the move tool, and I can move that selection. Okay, but what I'm going to do first is I'm going to crop it. Okay, so I'm going to go to the crop tool, and I'm going to say okay to that, and there we go. We have our cropped image. Notice that I took out the tank that was over on the left part of the screen. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually check one other thing. Okay, and this is something that you should do when you're going to put one graphic inside another graphic, okay? And that is when you go to image, okay, you should check the image size and make sure that the resolution is the same. So this one's good for this one is good for the web. It's 72 pixels per inch, which is standard, okay? And we're going to say okay to that, all right? And we're going to want to make sure that the cloud image that we bring in also is 72 pixels per inch. Okay? So now what we're going to do is we're going to use color range, okay, in the select menu. All right? And so what I'd like to do is I'd like to say Control-0 to zoom this in as far as I can. Okay? And let's go to select and let's choose color range. All right, so now we see that there's a graphic here, and we can do a number of different things. We don't have to have localized color clusters selected, but what that does is it helps us make the mask kind of detect where the blue edge is and in relation to the rest of the lighthouse. You know, so such as where's the edge here between the blue and the gray. Okay, and that's what selecting localized color clusters will do for you. Okay, so then what we can do is take the there we go, take the fuzziness down to about 20, okay? And when you first do this, yours may be all dark, okay? Because I've already done this one time. Mine is showing a mask that's that has a a selection already. But what you want to do is you want to use the eyedropper here to go through and first select the blue area so it knows what color you want to choose, okay, that you're essentially going to build your mask out of, okay, and then you're going to add to it and subtract it. So let's try, for example, I'll show you a little bit kind of based more on what your own system probably looks like, okay? So this is probably closer to what yours looks like. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use the add eyedropper and I'm going to just carefully paint out, okay? And if I get a little too crazy and I select too much, that's alright. That's what the remove eyedropper is for. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to remove that, okay? So now I have a mask that's really pretty good. Okay, so that's how you do it. You just kind of add and subtract from your selection. Okay, now what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to take a look over here for the selection preview. And you can see that's what the black mat looks like, and you can see the blue area is kind of the live area, the area that we are talking about. It's kind of like cutting things out with construction paper. It's really just that simple. And back in the olden days, when we used to do this in the graphics business, we had special materials that we would literally cut a mat out like this with an X-Acto knife. Okay, but you can see what the different mats are. You can see what the quick mask looks like. Okay, but for now we're going to go with none. Okay, so we'll go back. We'll go back to none. All right. There we go, and we have our mask. And we're going to say OK to this. Okay. And as you can see, we have a marquee that's around here. Okay. Now we could do a couple of different things. We could go to the lasso tool. Okay. And notice that I want to have the add to selection selected here, and I'm just going to draw some circles around some of the flaws in the sky, okay, and there's some over here too, okay, and also your book suggests another way to do it, okay, and that is to go to select and choose grow, and that will go ahead and that'll get pretty much most of them. Looks like it didn't quite get the ones down here, so I'm going to just go in and get those very carefully. Okay, so there we have all of the flaws out of the sky. Okay, and so essentially what we have here, this is a window in the background. Okay, and we're going to put the image of the clouds into it. Okay. And before we do that, let's go ahead and let's look at saving the channel. Okay, so we're going to go to Select, Save Selection. Okay, you may have recalled doing this previously. Okay, and we're going to call this channel Blue Sky. And we'll say OK to that. Okay, so now as you can see, we have a channel called Blue Sky. We have our blue channel, green channel, red channel, and all of them all together. Okay. Another thing that we want to do is click on any of the selection tools. So right now, for example, we have the lasso tool selected, and we want to go to Select and Mask. Okay. And we want to do a little bit of smoothing and feathering and so forth. Okay, so we're going to detect, let's try 2 pixels. Okay, and let's smooth it out by 2 pixels. Okay, there we go. And let's feather a little bit. Okay, so now what that's going to do is that's going to give us an image where it's going to meld into the foreground of the lighthouse is going to meld into the sky. Okay, so we'll say okay to that. Okay, and now what I'd like to do is go ahead and open the clouds.tiff file. Okay, so go to File, and I'm going to open clouds.tiff. Okay, and I'm going to just go like that. I'm going to hold Control and 0 and zoom in on it. Okay, and I'd like to select all, okay, by going Control A, okay, and I'm going to copy that. I'll choose Copy. Then I'm going to go back to my lighthouse 2.tiff file, okay, and I'm going to paste special and paste into. And there's our sky, okay. We can then use the Move tool or the arrows on the keyboard to move that around. Okay, so let's use the Move tool. All right, and you got to be a little careful. See over here on the edge where I'm allowing the blue sky from before to show? Well, we don't want that, so we have to be a little bit careful, and that's one of the values of using the arrows on your keyboard. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say undo to that. Okay, I'm going to undo. Okay, I'm going to step backwards, and we need to do one more thing here. Okay, and that is we need to go to Image. We need to go to Image Size and confirm. Yep, it's 72 pixels per inch. Okay, it's the same as before, meaning as the lighthouse image. Okay, we'll say okay to that. That's fine. Again, we're going to select all. We're going to Control C to copy. Then we're coming here and we're going to paste special. We'll go into paste into. There's our background. Now I'm not going to use the Move tool. Instead, I'm going to use the arrow keys on my keyboard. Watch what happens if I bring it up enough. Okay, if I keep bringing it up, I can actually use that background in the back to make it look like there's a sea or ocean in the background. Okay, so you could do it that way, but also there's a nice thing about this image. I'm going to use the arrow keys to move it down. Okay, and part of the drama of this image, which is kind of nice, is having a little bit of contrast between the roof here and the white fluffy cloud. Okay, so that's something you should think about as you're positioning all of these things. Okay, so now you've completed your graphic, and what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to choose Save As. Okay, and I'd like you to name it New Sky.tiff. Alright, making sure that the alpha channels are there, the layers and so forth, okay, so that your selection's always there. Let's say the client wants to replace that image, that sky, they want it to look stormy. Well, you know, you could easily do that then with a different image. We'll say okay to that. Alright, image compression none, everything else looking good. We'll say okay, and there we have it. Okay, so best of luck, and let me know if you have any questions. Bye.